Today, I'd like to talk about energetic sovereignty. I think in the current climate, whether political or whatever you're looking at in the world, it becomes more and more important to be able to be rooted in something that is real, and ideally being rooted in yourself, um, being rooted in your own energy without being swayed by outside forces, whether it's friends, whether it's general political pressures, or anything else really. Just to be rooted in yourself and to reclaim or stay energetically sovereign. So, to understand or to feel what energetic sovereignty is, you first need to get familiar with energy, the fact that you are an energetic channel. And once you've realized that, probably the most important experience that you could ever have is to realize that you have the choice which energy you are channeling through your energetic vessel. How are you living at the moment? Are you responding to life? Are you reacting to life? What dictates your energetic state at any given moment? And with energy, energy obviously encompasses emotions, feelings, general state of being. That's all part of energy. Energy is a very fluid term that includes a whole range of things. So what dictates in what kind of mood you are, whether you're happy or sad, whether you feel grounded, what are the influencing factors, and what amount of choice do you think you have in the matter? That's really the main question. I believe that realizing my own choice in choosing the energy I channel in any given moment is probably one of the deepest realizations I've ever had. And from that, I can fully understand how difficult it is to get that realization, because it took me a while to have it. And different people will have different triggers in their lives to potentially come to that realization. So I'd like to suggest or propose that you do a little exercise with me, and I'm just going to lay out the exercise, and then you can basically do it in your own time, or whatever. You have 5 minutes where you have nothing else to do, or you have 5 minutes to yourself, and you can there's nothing happening around you, and you can focus on your inner state. You can try what I'm about to explain. So try to imagine, and this can be either something that occurred in your life or something virtual, and there's slight differences in the two, but imagine or think back to a moment where you experienced a significant state of, or very powerful state of either joy, love, something positive, happiness. Can you think back to a particular moment where you experienced that? And if you, so I think about what you want to, what that particular moment was, and try, perhaps do that by closing your eyes and try to put yourself in that moment to your highest capability. Let's assume someone would ask you, oh, how deep can you go into that moment in all its remembrance? And can you be there? Was there particular smells? Was there particular sights or sounds that were associated with that moment? And can you reproduce, can you go back to that moment to the best of your ability with everything that's included? The feelings, the love, the happiness, the joy, the people that were involved, that were around you. Where were you? What time was it? Was it cold? Was it warm? What were you wearing? Everything. Can you remember that moment to the slightest detail you can remember? And when you do that, you will, to the best of your ability, regain that energy, that excitement. It like, if you visualize it in your mind and you close your eyes and try to slip back into that energetic state, right? And try to stay there. Try to stabilize the state a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that you can do that to some extent, perhaps to a small extent, but you're like, oh, you remember, oh, I was so happy that day. I was so in love. I was so, whatever happened. And obviously I'm having the example here of a positive. You can obviously do that with a negative as well. Not particularly recommended, but do that with a very positive, what would represent a very positive energy for you. And once you have captured that energy, or it's there again, it's present in your mind, I'm asking you to try to see, obviously you have the energy, and as of now you relate it back to a particular person or to a particular situation or whatever triggered that joy. Now see if in whatever you're experiencing and whatever is around you, like as a remembrance, would you be able to tell me if the circumstances and the energy are completely dependent on each other? Meaning, would it ever be possible for you to have that energy, to channel that energy without anything that triggered it? Are you able to bring back in, to recall the energy and see whether it actually depends 100%? So it's like a binary thing. Like, I'm not saying it's much easier to recall back that energy when I'm thinking about a particular thing, but is it 100%, or is there a slight independence of these two things? The triggers, the environment, the people that were involved in that situation, and the energetic states that you had in that moment. And you need to be very objective with that. The mind will try to tell you that those two things are interlinked. They are completely dependent upon each other. You cannot get that energy without the outward circumstances that triggered it. But if you do that exercise correctly, you will find that energetic state that you recalled, of course, with cues. So first you have to use cues. You have to use little triggers, thinking back about a person or a situation or a vacation or whatever it is. That remembrance brings back the energy. But if you think about clearly, when you are in that state where you are by yourself, you might be lying on your bed, you close your eyes, and you bring back that memory with its feelings, with its energy, you will see that the energy exists independently of anything that triggered it. And that's one of the most important experiences or acknowledgements you can have in your life. This energy, or any energy, energies are unconditional. The problem is when we're incarnated, they seem to be conditional. They seem to be, love is I can love a pet, a person, I can love a particular hobby, whatever it is. But deep down, the love is completely, the purest form of love is completely independent of anything that might trigger it. And so, if you get that realization, if you know, because you have had the experience, it's nothing that you need. It cannot be cognized. It cannot be understood mentally. It has to be felt, because otherwise, it's you need to know it, because you need to experience it. It needs to be a fact for you. It's not something that it's not a rule or a thing that you live by. It's something that you know deep inside of you, that those things are completely independent. And if you have that realization, then comes the element of choice. So if those two things are independent, and we'll come to the 3D life, I'm not nullifying anything that's physical. I'm not saying that there's things that happen and you feel sad. That's obviously true, but I'm pointing towards a higher truth here, and understanding or acknowledging or knowing that truth will change your life immediately and permanently. And so the understanding of that truth brings about choice. If there is independence, then it is up to you to choose in any given moment what energy you want to be in. Nothing and no one can influence how you feel. It seems like it from an outward perspective. Well, people harass me, I don't have enough money, I have a boss, blah blah. So outwardly it always seems like you don't have that power, but you do, to some extent. Again, I'm not saying anything about human life. Human life is difficult, but the realization that you have a choice of how to respond to it, and how quickly you can go back to a state of balance and a positive state, at least, of contentment, at least, if it's not being exuberantly joyful or in love. But you can go back very quickly to a state that is balanced for you, even if things are not working out in your life. You have that anchor that anchors you, because it's unconditional, and you have unconditional choice regarding your energetic state at any given moment. So the slight difference when you do this exercise, and I'm encouraging you to do it fairly frequently, so you get to experience that independence. It's not something that I'm telling you and that you should just believe like gospel. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your own empowerment and doing that exercise until maybe someday, maybe it doesn't come immediately, but one day you will realize that state, I can bring it back in, initially perhaps with help, the help being the visualization of a particular moment, but check if you can just bring in that energy without any. You can mimic that energy once you've experienced it. You can bring it back at any moment. And so the slight difference when you do this with a potential virtual experience, something that hasn't happened yet, something that you wish would happen, something that you would wish to manifest, that is completely valid too. Oh, if I would have this and this and this and this, I would be so happy. So go into that state where you have those things that you wish. And the importance again is the energetic state that situation would put you in. And where in this case there is intrinsic independence, because none of what you're thinking about has actually occurred. So it's completely virtual, but you are able to sink into a particular energetic state, right? And that's in that particular example where you think back or think towards something that you haven't had the chance to experience. That basically is an exercise of manifestation, because by being in that state, you call forth whatever is going to put you in that state. With caveats, manifestation, we're talking about energetic states. So perhaps your mind doesn't know exactly how to visualize what's going to put you in a particular energetic state, or perhaps the universe has a different plan and thinks, oh, this is the state you are seeking, I know exactly what's going to put you in that state. And it might not look exactly how you visualize it, but the state you're in will be matched, perhaps even more. Perhaps what you think is, oh, I couldn't be happier if I had X, Y, and Z. And suddenly perhaps things happen that make you even happier. But the important thing is the element of choice. Yes, there are stressful situations in life where you feel that you have no choice, where you're stressed and you're yelling at people or things are not going according to plan. Yes, I get these things too. But what changed for me is I have that base anchor. I'm still anchored in something deep. And so on the surface, like on the ocean, like big waves and everything like that, but I'm still at any given time when I feel, oh, I'm swayed away, or like the 3D world has its grip on me, within a moment I can, oh no, hang on, let me just tune into my anchor. And that's a tremendous help for any type of situation in your life. And it helps you to step out of that materialistic viewpoint of the world, right? It's everything is energy, and that is the only thing that should matter. It's really interesting. Sometimes I catch myself because my mind tends to be very analytical, so I pick, from birth I picked everything apart, and that's the reason why I wrote my book, a small little book that you can find on my website, about the nature of reality. So it's interesting, sometimes I look at a particular object, or you look at a particular word, things that we've created with our minds, things that are materialistic, an object, a word, things that we use to communicate with. And perhaps you can also do that exercise if you almost meditate on a word. Not with meditating, I'm not meaning like don't use it as something like divine or anything like that. Meditating is like intent focus. Like if you focus on a word, or you focus on a lamp or whatever, a shelf, or whatever it is, you focus on it. At some stage, it will appear really weird. Particularly, it like for me, it works really well with words. You use a word, anything like table, table. You say it like 100 times, table, and suddenly it becomes really strange. It's like, oh, table, table, with table, that's something that's flat. We can put stuff on. For me, it's kind of this interesting experience. Every single time I do that is we created these things. These are mental constructs. Mental construct that sometimes have a physical equivalent, but it's all mentally constructed. But and we're very good at focusing on the mental and on the physical. But at the end of the day, these are all tools that we developed to be in this world. But the being is energetic. The act, the verb of being, existing, this is it's an energetic verb. It's not just like a thing. And so with that exercise, that again, I'm encouraging you to do it as frequently as you need to until you capture this independence of the feeling, of the energy, and of the outward circumstance. You can achieve that knowledge with, there are the tools that point towards the same thing. I like the concept of pointers. Religions are pointers. They're not to be taken like out of context. They be taken to what they actually are, pointers. So that exercise points towards this, and then the experience is the real thing, not the pointer. The pointer is useless once you have the experience. So other pointers towards the same kind of truth are, you can achieve the same thing, for instance, via breath work. If you focus on the breath, suddenly the breath, like a word that you focus on, the breath gains a different meaning. Psychedelics is the same thing. Psychedelics is, don't get lost in the what, like the what being, oh yeah, the table changes and the grass is talking to me, or whatever, the tree is sending me its energy. That's the what, but how? Focus on the how, like what changed? What energetic state am I in? Because you always get lost in the what, but wait, like what's the shift in energy that just happened, and how come this is possible? This is the deepest realization that, for instance, gets lost in psychedelics. Everyone does it for the enjoyment, visuals and all of that stuff, but it is a similar pointer to your energetic being, and the fact, how can it be that you can change those perceptions all at once? It's an energetic switch. There also, there's so many different examples. There's also physical places. People go to places like the pyramids in Egypt, or sites in Peru, or whatever it is, and they get this energetic download, what they call download, or it's just an energetic shift where you shift as an energetic state. Now, this is not necessarily voluntary. It's just something that speaks to you, or you enter into resonance with something else, whether it's a plant medicine, whether it's a particular site, because of the energy particularly there. So this just points you towards, oh, my energy has shifted. Now, once you've had that energetic shift, same thing with the visualization exercise. Can you go back to that energy? The trigger was only a pointer. Oh, so I shifted energy. Oh, that was a really pleasant experience, blah, blah, blah. But more importantly, can you recall? Is there a recall element where you have the choice to be back into that state? And is there something positive for you? Is your life better? I'm always talking about things that make your life better. I'm not talking if none of these things work for you, just listening to the wrong person, listening to the wrong channel. I'm just trying to explain things that worked for me, that I find have made my life easier, or have answered questions that I had about the nature of reality. So think about going back to that element of choice, which is the most important aspect of this particular truth. You have the choice. It's the most important realization. Think about, once you've done that a few times, ask yourself that question: is there actually anything that dictates or has power over how I feel? And only ask yourself that question only once you've done these things a few times, because then it's easier to capture. You're not going to be able to absorb that truth or even understand the meaning behind that question if you just like starting with that. But once you've done this a few times in your head and you let it sink in, and you perhaps apply it to your physical world, to your day-to-day world, after a while, ask yourself that question: is there anything outside of me that ever dictates how I feel or what my energy is? And if you're truthful with yourself, you will realize that the answer to that question is no. There is actually absolutely nothing outside of you that ever dictates what energetic state you're in. It is of your own choosing, and that's a difficult realization to have, because that puts all the responsibility back onto you. Now, that being said, I fully understand physical life. I understand how the world works, and I certainly spent most of my life being outwardly influenced or seemingly influenced by all sorts of things, where I didn't feel that I had a choice in the matter. When I felt shit, well, there was a reason. There was an outside reason why I felt shit. Now, I'm not saying that everything's great all the time. That's not the point. But the way you feel about it, that is a choice. It's your choice how you feel about it. Sometimes you break down. It's this kind of choice. There is some type of muscle associated with it. If you don't train it, that muscle will be very weak, and you're going to be swayed by outward circumstances. and again feel like you have no choice. Like if you go to the gym and I tell you to take a particular weight and do different movements with it, you will feel like no, the weight's weighing me down. I have no freedom. The weight is too high. It's too heavy. It forces me or blocks me from doing particular things. But once you train, then suddenly the weight becomes lighter, and then you can move almost like, oh yeah, well I feel that there's a little thing attached to me, or I have to hold on to it, but I can still do whatever I want to do, and that's exactly how it is. You you have the choice all the time to be in a positive energy. Not necessarily, as I said, don't be stupidly joyful, even if like your situation is shit. That's that's probably not a good way to go about things. But you can be anchored in some kind of contentment. It's like, okay, this is how it is at the moment. Let's just go through this. You know, this too shall pass, and I have this weight. Okay, yeah, it's wearing me a bit down, but I can still move on and do these things. And over time, when you reclaim your energetic sovereignty, and that by itself will energetically attract outwardly manifestations that match your energy, which should be positive. And I strongly believe that this is going to be a powerful skill when things perhaps will get really out of control in the outside world. I am certainly a believer that at some stage there will be disclosure about extraterrestrial life, that everything that the governments have been hiding so far will come out, or that there will be contact that cannot be denied. And then what? There might be a chaotic environment, even more so than now, and it's going to be more important than ever to be grounded, to be energetically sovereign, and not panic or not f- be fearful of anything, but just be energetically sovereign. And so I think now is the time to realize that you have that sovereignty, realize that you have that choice, so that when it matters, you're strong enough to use your power of choice. You say, no, hang on, yeah, all of this, everything's going haywire, but I'm rooted in myself, and let's just breathe, and we'll get through this. So as I've been doing this for a while now, and it is my belief that, as pointed by pointed out by all religion, or by any kind of spiritual teaching, that the highest energetic state you can achieve when reincarnated is love. Love being what I would call a base frequency. And again, like when I say love, it's unconditional love. It's an energetic frequency. There's nothing to do with loving a person, loving a pet, loving something. It is not tied to anything. That's where I defined, if I can choose whatever state I want to be in, and I can recall, and after a while you can recall without anything associated to it, I can recall that state without thinking about a particular situation, about a particular thing. I'm in the moment, I am channeling love. That's the highest state you can channel. And then the higher octaves of that, and that's basically back to the singularity or God. That's what I believe. And so that's a base frequency. Now, of course, if you go all the way up from that base, all the octaves up, leads you back to the singularity. What I think started the universe or the multiverse. Now, it's important not to, when you reincarnate it, don't have those lofty goals. Oh yeah, well, I want to be back to singularity, blah blah. That's, of course, that's the, as the universe's inhale exhales, the ultimate point will be to go back to the singularity. But we're not at that yet, and I don't think it's very useful to think about singularity. So let's think about, on the lower octave, love, that love is the base frequency, but then you have your very unique energetic signature. You are you. You are a particular soul that has reincarnated, and when you are in a state of love or joy or whatever state you really like to embody, or what in that exercise really speaks to you, like I really like to be in that state. And you are your own very unique derivative of that base frequency of love. That's what you are. That's your base frequency. You are that derivative, that little drop in the ocean. The ocean has its frequency, but then you are that little drop with a very unique little energetic signature. And so that if you are channeling love or positive energy, you have your own very unique way to do so. And that will attract very unique things, circumstances that match exactly what you may wish to do in your life, or whatever impact you want to have, or whatever plan your soul had when it came down, or when it reincarnated. When I channel love, I will attract different things than from you, because you have your own little fingerprint that is attracted to X, Y, and Z, or that would like to experience particular things in this lifetime, versus when I channel that and I attract the things that I'd like to manifest, other things will come to me. So doing these kind of exercises doesn't remove anything of uniqueness, doesn't remove your personality. All of that remains intact, so that you can experience whatever you wanted to experience. And ultimately, we go up all the way, and then back to singularity. But on every single level, there's still some level of individuality associated with all these things. And so, to realize your energy, you have to go past particular energetic distortions. So whatever's between your real you, your real energetic signature, and the highest version of that, there's some distortion, and you chose those distortions based on what challenges you wanted to experience in this life. Sometimes it's distortions that are associated with particular ancestral karma or trauma. You reincarnated in particular families that have a particular pattern that stands initially between your unique energetic blueprint and being able to express it into the world. And once you get past all these distortions, it's like piercing through the clouds. Like if you're on an airplane and there's a layer of clouds and everything's cloudy, and then suddenly you peek through, and then there's sunshine at 30,000 feet, and it's all light, and you're like, oh, it's such a different perspective from up there. So these two things are kind of tied. Be able to choose your energy, and through these understandings of energy, and perhaps you first understand or come across your energetic fingerprints, and maybe the choice, but maybe you still think that, oh yeah, but this is the, I can really feel good, but only if these outward circumstances are there. So it doesn't matter which comes first, but those two things are very much tied together. Your choice of energetic, whatever energy you want to channel, and then what is my particular energy, and it will be, if you do this consistently, it will be tied to love. It's going to be a state, the highest, the most pure, the state that you wish to be in every single moment, will be tied or will be a derivative of love. But your particular unique way of that. And I'm still, I'm still living in 3D materialistic reality. So this, it's always going to be challenging, and I don't see myself really, removing myself from the world. But with that anchor that I have, my particular version of love, that's where I understand so much about the world. And when I'm in that state, my unique state of unconditional love, the highest state I feel I can be in, there's so much this from that energetic state, and then the understanding of everything as being energy. I can suddenly understand very unique lives. Like one thing that really struck me is how close I felt to what's being exemplified, for instance, by that person, by that woman. She's called the Hugging Saint. Her name's Amma, and she's of Indian descent, and she basically hugs people. You can go, and thousands of people are being hugged by her. And I think I've been aware of her like ages ago, but only when you understand energy and you are able to access your highest form of energetic embodiment, which is related to love, suddenly to live a life like that seems so logical to me. It makes so much sense that you design a life around your highest energetic embodiment. And embodying something like love, you immediately realize that it is it automatically wants to be shared. It just pours out of you. It's an energy that is not consuming, it's multiplying. Nothing has to be consumed. It's just, it comes out of you. It's effortless. That's when you know that you've reached that particular state. And there are, of course, particularly in the West, barriers to these kind of states, because they would basically look at you like a lunatic. If you even have a sign with 3 hugs, I don't know, maybe in New York or someone, like, people look at you like, oh, look at that crazy person. I wish that in the future we have more energetic understanding and the energetic vocabulary to recognize what that is, and not to label it as stupid, crazy, lunatic. And I think recalibrating our viewpoint on energetic embodiments will be very beneficial in times of crisis that may still be upon us. We'll see how the world, how everything unfolds, but I think we're in a period of breakdown where things that do not longer serve us have to be destroyed or and then rebuilt. Before the rebirth, you need a death, and I think some things need to go because they're not working for us as a whole. And I also wish to say that, like the analogy with the religions, the pointers, none of what I ever say, in whatever context, none of it, it's not about understanding it or proving it. It's about living it and experiencing it. I have these two sides in my brain. I have a very analytical brain that allows me to know exactly how things might be perceived from a purely mental point of view, and I catch that mental aspect of myself to cringe at most of what sometimes comes out of my mouth. So there's an active, almost buffering of, okay, let's take a back seat now, which the mental self anyway has to do. It always at the front seat, so whatever you're gonna do, when you want to put it in the back seat and talk about or describing energies, experiencing energies, it's not gonna like it very much. So there's always a mental aspect of myself that cringes or that doesn't like what I'm currently doing. But the choice is now in a different compartment, or in a different energetic dimension, I would say. So when you start doing these things and becoming more familiar with energy, with your energy, as you can, as is epitomized, for instance, by near-death experiences, where you're just basically thrown into a different energy and you have all these realizations. The hard thing is really to assess to what extent your physical life, as you built it so far, as it's built up so far, how well it matches your energetic fingerprints, like what's so the thing that really resonates with you, the particular state where you really feel joyful and things like that, how well is that matched to your outward circumstances? Are your outward circumstances supporting you being in that state, or is it that you would use that state to come down or to recover from whatever experiences you have on a day-to-day basis? And is there something that you might need to change to be in that state, in that chosen state, more often or at all? And that's where life becomes a bit hard, because you realize that you may have to let go of particular things or people or a job that matches your energetic frequency a bit better, and that facilitates you being in your highest energetic states most of the time. so that you don't necessarily have to strain to use your energetic choice. You know, if it's a strain and you're like, oh yeah, everything's so shit around me, but I'm choosing. I mean, it's a great exercise for developing that strength, but it's tiring. So wouldn't you not want to have outward circumstances that make that choice easier, where it's like you're just a slight shift away, maybe. I'm not talking about ideal lives, you know, like life is stressful, you know, like let's face it, you know, we reincarnated here. Most of the time it's a shit show. I mean, I've had a shit show for most of my life, which allowed me to explore different concepts. Um, Pain is the biggest teacher. It's the biggest pointer because it just points straight at things. As long as you don't get lost in the pointer, as long as it doesn't destroy you. So, you know, as you might have captured from other posts, you know, I've spent most of my life being an academic scientist. And I certainly developed a very high level of rational thinking, and it now I kind of, it's a double-edged sword. It was a massive hurdle to explore the things that I actually wanted to explore. But now it's almost like a gift because I straddle both worlds. I know exactly how things are being perceived, but I also have this understanding, this energetic understanding. And although I explore things that are related to people that have obvious gifts, you know, channels, mediums, psychics, and I had my own experiences with that, and undeniable experiences where even my rational mind had to take a step back and acknowledge, okay, yeah, there's nothing I can say here. I always thought, well, oh, I would have loved to have a gift like that. You know, it would have immediately taken me out of all this shit because I would have had a more direct access to that different dimension. And I always thought, well, I don't have a gift, which perhaps makes my spiritual development more remarkable. You know, that's my mental thing, trying to find good things about it. You know, but I think my gift is, if I have one, and I don't want to actually call it gift, but what what I brought to the table was, first of all, obviously a willingness to be objective and to be open-minded. But I actually sense subtle energies. Energetic exploration is something I did my entire life, and sometimes without noticing it. I explored different states of consciousness, but my mental makeup labeled it in a particular way that I thought it was just thoughts, you know. It made it smaller than it actually is. Because I realized my energetic understanding is so developed that I am an empath. I mean, I certainly am. I very rarely put myself in other people's shoes energetically, and that also has been something where I had to put barriers, because otherwise you lose yourself in other people. But I actually have a very developed sense of understanding when I'm surrounded by other people, I can energetically tune into what is happening in that room at the moment. Um, and that's perhaps why I'm so keen on everyone gaining that understanding, because it's not restricted to me. It's just something that I started with. I was sent down, or I sent myself down here with a few cards in my hand. I've been dealt a particular hand, and then you develop particular things based on that. But the hand you're dealt with, that you chose for yourself, doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you don't have access to the other cards. Of course, you're gonna have it. You have all. Everyone has the same access to everything. It might be a bit more difficult to access particular things based on your original hand, but I'm not unique in any way, shape, or form. I'm just bring my unique viewpoint on reality through this channel and through what I experience, and just to provide it to other people. And perhaps I have ways to say things that might be a better pointer than compared to listening to another person speaking about more or less the same thing, but offering different pointers. Or the way I point to things might be something that can be more easily picked up by a particular bunch of people. Not necessarily everyone. There's everyone has different ways to capture particular concepts, and that's what I experience in my own life. There are concepts where for a long time I didn't get it, and then I heard someone speak about a particular thing, and then I got it, because it was the way it was formulated was the perfect pointer for me. So I hope this is helpful, to summarize. Please try these exercises of acknowledging the independence of your energetic states from anything outside of you. That itself is a pointer towards you forming your own reality, because nothing outside of you should actually have an impact. You impacting the outside world, not the other way around. But this particular way of approaching it gives you so much freedom. It takes a while to implement it in the real life, or to rewire your brain in such a way that you're not constantly operating in that fear-based, I need to pay attention to everything around me because everything can attack me, or everything's bad for me. But the sense of energetic autonomy and sovereignty is something that it's one of the most crucial concepts to get on that journey of spiritual development. And then ultimately, once you realize your energetic self and you live the concept of energetic embodiment, then when you one day will pass on, it's not going to be that much of a difference. It's just same energy somewhere else. With that, I'll leave you try that exercise a little bit, and I'll talk to you very soon.